Live.
Are we live? Okay, we are live.
Well,
I'm
really
excited. I just found a pink lemonade in my fridge, so I'm like super pumped. But more excited to welcome everyone to today's Saratoga Podcast. Sorry, I look a little crazy. My curly hair is showing. But welcome. I'm back with Dan Federicis and Adam Israel. Welcome to today's podcast. We have so much to talk about today, you guys, including a really exciting cover reveal from Saratoga Living magazine. We have Abby. You know what, Abby, I know Abby can hear us right now, but when she comes on, I want her to correctly pronounce her last name for us, which she will do, I'm sure. She's the CEO of Saratoga Living and Capital Region Living magazine. And I'm so excited to have her on to talk about her cover reveal because I know you boys are going to love it. Although I think Dan knows already who it is, but I know Saratoga Springs is going to love it. So I can't wait to get to her in a minute. And then we are going to talk about the local elections coming up because although it is March and it seems premature, Saratoga Springs elects their city council in congressional off years. So this year we are going to have the entire city council up for re-election. So that is going to be pretty cool. I want to talk about who's running. So guys, I know I'm cutting right to the chase here, but should we go right to Abby and see who is on this cover?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome, Abby.
Hello.
Hello. All right, Abs. Can you, first of all, Abby is my next door neighbor and a dear friend, and I can never correctly pronounce her last name, which is deeply embarrassing. So, Abby, can you do that for me?
It's just how it looks. Tagnelia.
Tagnelia. Okay, if it's all right, Tagnelia. Dan, did you know that? Am I the only one who doesn't pronounce it right?
I was probably 98% of the way there. And Wojo, it's just like it sounds.
Well, Abby, we're so pumped to have you on and talk about this incredible cover that you guys did and interview that you did. Can you announce to our audience who is on your cover?
Absolutely. So we're very excited. I'm sure that most people who live here in Saratoga remember 2 years ago when right after lockdown ended and the entire town was electric, Owen Wilson was in town filming a movie called Paint. Paint hits theaters on April 7th, and we are the only outlet that did get an interview with Owen himself. And we got to ask him all the questions about when we were following him around town, what was going through his head as they were, filming their movie. So we're super pumped.
So let's put up this cover. Here we go. Look at that. Who is that handsome man?
There he is.
What an awesome cover.
Thank
looks
you.
so
Abby,
good.
wow.
You can't-
Abby,
Doesn't
what
it
was
look
your
amazing,
impression?
you
Did Owen enjoy the city? I mean, what was his impression of Saratoga?
He absolutely loved it. One of the most endearing things I learned about him is that he's this huge history buff. Who knew? But coming from LA, growing up in Texas, spending a lot of time in Hawaii, he was blown away he went to Grant Cottage. He went to, the battleground states. He was still rattling off facts about Benedict Arnold 2 years later to me. So he really did. And one of his best friends, who actually is a producer on the movie, Peter Brandt, I'm sure you guys know the name. He's this world-renowned artist, art collector. He has a house in Saratoga, which I didn't know, and has been telling Owen about the races. And so Owen wants to come back for track season sometime soon.
That's so exciting. Adam, are you going to aggressively stalk him if he comes back for track season? Let's just
Yeah, that was that. I remember. Oh, I got a funny Owen Wilson story. So,
Yes.
2 years ago, I had just decided to run for commissioner of finance, and I'm meeting. I was meeting with everybody who would talk to me, and I was meeting with this guy, and we were at Spot Cafe, and we're sitting there and we're chatting, and it soon becomes obvious that this guy has nefarious intentions. I think he's recording me. It's just the questions are weird. And then I realized sitting next to the next table over is a reporter from the Times Union, Wendy Libator, who notoriously is very skewed in her reporting towards the conventional Democratic committee here. So she doesn't do anybody else any favors in her reporting. So I'm sitting there under all this pressure, a new candidate, and in walks Owen Wilson filming a scene for this movie, and it was just complete chaos. But it was really cool to see him in person, and it kind of blew my mind that all these things were happening at once, and that kind of started what was my path down politics. But love seeing Owen, love that was this year, love to see him come back.
Adam, Wendy tells that story a lot differently.
I'm sure she does. I'm sure I was.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally
kidding.
Wendy has never brought that up. No, I'm totally kidding.
I know, but if she
Who's on
did,
the other
it
side of
would
her
be doing
house.
something horrendous, I'm sure, or some Republican doing something awful. I don't know.
So Abby, did he talk about the taping here? Like, because I do know everyone, including myself, like I totally freaked out when I found out he was coming here because the Wes Anderson movies that he's in are some of my favorite movies of all time. Like I often wish I lived in a Wes Anderson world. And so I totally freaked out when I heard he was coming. But then I kind of settled down because I really did realize that like Saratoga Springs was like obsessed with seeing him. And I knew so many people who bumped into him like here, there, randomly, and they all had such positive things to say about their interactions. But I'm hoping he had the same experience on his end.
He is so laid back. It was absolutely incredible. He obviously saw it all, but just said that, you know, he was blown away by how friendly everyone was and by our hospitality. Now, their executive producer was a little bit more forthcoming and said, oh, yeah, it was insane. Like, it's from our point of view, it seemed like the entire town was everywhere we went. And so I know that they did definitely talk about it for sure.
Okay, Abby, I got to jump in and ask you.
Yes.
You got to reveal some secrets here. How did you get the coup of the interview and then scoop everybody else? I mean, nobody got him. You're the first in the whole Capital District. How can you tell us a little bit of the backstory?
Because she's Abby, that's how.
You know, as soon as they left town, I did make that first phone call, even though I knew they would laugh at me, to try to find out how long it takes, you know, for the full production. And I started in November. It was before Thanksgiving, and just introduced myself and started to get to know them and just really made sure that they knew that, because the entire movie was filmed here. It wasn't like they did a little bit here and then a little bit somewhere else. And so I just did not take no for an answer. It was a lot of work.
That's why local journalism is so important, Abby.
Thank you,
That's why we love
Adam.
supporting you.
I really have to give Abby so many props, Adam. Like you just gave her. To book people like Owen Wilson for an interview, that takes so much relationship building, so much time, so much persistence. And people like Abby, who have been in this, you know, this profession for such a long and impressive amount of time, and the amount of things she's done and accomplished, like she knows that, you know, and she like stuck to her guns and like it paid off. And I just think it's such an impressive example of what can be done, even if you're in just local journalism. Like what you can do with the platform she has is so impressive. And I tell you, if I ever had a magazine or if I was ever doing a party, Abby would be the person I hired to run it like any day of the week, because she's so, no, seriously, you're so impressive in what you do.
Thank you. As you know, that's my big passion, is sort of protecting local journalism. And, you know, we did get a lot of pushback in the beginning. Oh, we'll do the big magazines first. You know, those words actually came out of their mouths, that kind of thing. But, you know, this was Saratoga's thing. And I was just determined to make it happen for us.
And, you know, Abs, you can speak to this too. I want to give the folks at the Chamber of Commerce and city government some, like, a little shout out, because I know my sister-in-law, given I'm a little biased, Anna Maria Dalton at the Chamber of Commerce, or Bellantoni now, rather, at the Chamber of Commerce, did a lot of work in getting the movie here and facilitating all the shoots around town, as did Marilyn Rivers, who is the head of risk and safety for Saratoga Springs. They were really instrumental, as far as I understand, in terms of getting this movie shot here and then facilitating its success here.
Absolutely. And when they were here filming, we actually did a cover story just on that, the business behind the scenes, what it actually does for our economy. It is a very, very positive thing. At the same time, or around the same time, the White House Plumbers on HBO was filming in Albany. And so going behind the scenes, you know, what does that do for, you know, Troy, the Gilded Age, Albany, and then, you know, this movie in Saratoga, and the people that made that happen, the people that you just mentioned, we really do owe them a lot of credit.
The movie is coming out, I believe, April 7th. Abby, can you list a few of the local landmarks that are in the movie? I've heard of some, but I'm sure you've got a lengthier list of places people will recognize in the movie.
Absolutely. So his character is based on Bob Ross, the 1980s iconic TV painter. He has the big perm and is very recognizable. And so he kind of drives around in this 1970s looking van. And even when he's just driving by, anyone would recognize Circular Street or some of the other places. So for me, that was almost the most exciting. Desperate Annie's, you will recognize immediately. Right across the street, Lucy's, you will probably not recognize. I mentioned his perm. They completely redid Lucy's. It was before it was opened as a bar, but it was with the same group of people. And that is where the barber shop is. Old Brian is a big one. And they filmed for an entire week at the public radio TV station, radio station as well.
Very cool. I'm so excited for Circular Street.
I know.
I'm very excited.
In the preview, you can actually on Franklin Street, you could see my brother's house in it.
So
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was a small town excitement, if you will.
Absolutely. They have released a second trailer if you haven't seen the first one. The first one came out. It was called the teaser trailer, and then they've also re-released a second trailer. So super excited. As of now, it is not playing in any Saratoga theaters, so I don't know what we can do about that. That's my next challenge.
Maybe we can have an event and try to have an event and get them to show it in the theater.
Yeah, viewing party. It's a fun uniting thing for our city to rally behind Owen Wilson.
We need something like that, don't we?
Yeah, we're willing to do, splash out the red carpet and have, the magazine blow up there. The owners of Lucy's have some memorabilia from when their bar was a barber shop. The public, TV station wants to be involved. So we're all ready. We just need, for them to play it in a Saratoga movie theater. So they are adding theaters all the way up until April 7th. So let's
Tom Den has fantastic audio-visual equipment there, Abby. Maybe you can make something happen there.
Yeah, as of now, they've told me I have to wait, but the producer is helping me. The theaters are helping me. We're talking to AMC. We're talking to IFC. So I'm confident it's going to happen.
All right.
I think what we're saying is that Abby's on it.
Yeah. Well, it would be ridiculous if it wasn't here, though. Like, they want to make money, and there's people here that want to see it.
I know. So you guys, I'm going to switch gears for one quick second. Because Abby, I know you have another event coming up this month, and I just wanted to talk about it briefly because last year this event was bananas, like bananas fun, bananas crazy, over the top. And if I were any girl in Saratoga Springs, I would want to come to this event. So Abby, can you tell us about this second annual Dress to Impress event that's coming up?
Yes, it's actually next Thursday, March 23rd, and it's a celebration of leaving behind the winter sweatpants and getting ready to dress up for the summer. And it is just a fun party. I don't know how else to explain it. You were there, mostly women, and so there's no pretense. It was just everyone getting dressed up and having fun. They did an impromptu fashion show last year that most of the women walked in, and we're planning to do that this year. It's at the Adelphi. It's an excuse to dress up and meet all of the women of Saratoga. Really, really, really just fun. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it.
No, it was really cool, you guys, because it was women who all were wearing like what they felt best in. And that encompasses such a wide variety of styles and looks. And normally I feel like if you're a girl and you really want to kind of go out on your own kind of like branch in terms of your own fashion and what you're wearing, sometimes if you're just wearing it around day to day, you tend to feel a little self-conscious about it. But at this event, it was just like women really embracing other women and how they felt best in terms of what they're wearing and how they feel and how it makes them feel. And so it was kind of really had this like great kind of empowerment feel to it too, where it was just like really like positive vibes only, like without having to say that in like a tacky way. It really, really was.
Really was. And some women made a dress, other women, someone wore their wedding dress that they'd always wanted to wear again. There were gowns, there were casual dresses, it ran the entire gamut, and everyone just wanted to see the creativity of others. And it was just
and there was still Robin Dalton wearing a black shirt, black leggings, and sneakers, and that was still okay too.
No one cared. There was no pretense at all. It was really fun. So
it was really great.
Everyone in Saratoga is, invited. So probably the easiest way is just reach out to me, abby@saratogaliving.com, and I can send you the information.
Yeah. So just to repeat that, if anyone's interested in going, there's an Eventbrite ticket sales that are up. But if you're interested, probably the easiest way is just email Abby, which is abby@saratogaliving.com. So Abby@saratogaliving.com.
Yes.
Well, Abs, we've got tons of politics to talk about. So if
Yes.
you want to stick around and
Well, really quickly before I go, since Adam is sort of the one that was surprised today, Adam, I wanted you to know that we did talk about what's going on in Saratoga, and we did talk about Chick-fil-A. So you're going to have to read the article as soon as it's up on Monday morning at 8 a.m. on SaratogaLiving.com.
Yeah, a little shout out to what's going on in Saratoga real quick. Just the background was, it was kind of bonanzas when he was here because there'd be this Owen Wilson spottings, coming in, all over my my Facebook group, and it was good and bad. And we had kind of officials saying, listen, we're filming, we don't want 1,000 people showing up, but it's also something fun for the city. So hopefully it worked out for the filming crew and Owen. And thank you for for bringing up Chick-fil-A in my Facebook group, and I can't wait for the magazine to come out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had to. Thanks so much.
thank you so much, Abby.
Thanks, Abby.
Bye, guys.
That was so fun.
Okay,
How
that was
awesome
too
did the
fun.
cover
Let's just
look,
go to
guys?
cheers and cheers and wrap it up.
I know, right? No, but seriously, how awesome did the cover look?
Yeah, Owen Wilson's a
so
stud.
good.
What can you
yeah,
say,
it
huh?
was- everything about that was great. We're all fans of Abby. Cheers to her for pulling that off. That wasn't easy.
I know. All right, so hard right, left turn, whichever way you want to go. Can we talk about local politics and this upcoming city council election? Because I think it's going to be a spectacularly crazy political season. Shocker. So the Democrats.
Yeah, so
earlier.
What's
yeah,
that?
With the
where we're at
primaries
now
this year,
is that-
it's a much earlier political season as well.
It is.
But where we're at now, it's petitioning period, meaning the Democrats, the Republicans, and even independent candidates have kind of now announced their intention to run. Like we saw last year, after petitions are signed, that can change. The Democrats changed up their slate of candidates after petitioning, not unheard of. But right now, we have a pretty good idea of who is going to be running for what positions.
Yeah.
You want to walk us through it, Robin?
Yeah, we can. Okay, so basically right now, I wish I had this on a graphic, but I did not have time to prepare a graphic. So the Democrats have the full slate of the city council running again. So that would be Ron Kim for mayor, Manita Sangui for finance. That would be Jason Golub for public works, Dylan Moran for accounts, and James Montenegro for supervisor. They also have Gordon Boyd running for, I'm sorry, did I say supervisor for the wrong person?
Yeah, Jason Golub is again for public works.
Dylan Moran for accounts. And then Jim Montenegro for public safety. I think I might have said supervisor. I apologize. Basically, all the current incumbent city council are running again, all 5 of them. And then Matt Veach, who's a Republican, is running for county supervisor again. And Tara Gaston, who's the current county supervisor for the Democrats, is not running again. So the only new candidate who is running through the Democratic committee is Gordon Boyd. He is running for county supervisor. The Republicans, it's interesting. They have a full 5 candidates on their petition for the city council. But my understanding is that 3 of those people are what we would call a placeholder, meaning they're on a petition right now, but they could be replaced after the petitioning is finished with different names, which is a little bit confusing. But the 3 people that they are also petitioning for who do intend to run a full campaign are as follows. John Safford for mayor. Tim Cole for public safety, who is interestingly a Democrat, but he's running for public safety on the Republican line. And then Matt Veach for county supervisor. So your county supervisor candidates on the Republican line, Matt Veach; on the Democratic line, Gordon Boyd. Separately, you have Chris Mattison, also running for mayor. He's running as a Democrat, and he's running to challenge Ron Kim in a primary. And then you also have Michelle Madigan running as a Democrat. She would be on the Democratic line if Gordon Boyd also succeeds getting enough signatures. There wouldn't be a primary because there's 2 slots for a county supervisor, but there would be 3 people come November that you'd be voting for. Only 2 would win. So 2 out of the group of Matt Veach, Gordon Boyd, or Michelle Madigan. So is that sufficiently confusing?
Yeah, no, that makes sense because we're all reading it, but for hopefully the viewers are getting that. Any dark horse or anyone laying out there that most people haven't heard about yet? You guys, rumors, anything?
Sure. So basically, the kind of surprise here, the thing that'll make the biggest impact is whether or not there will be an independent line. And One Saratoga is a group that I've been a part of. And One Saratoga was a group that emerged in the 2019 elections. And it was a group that endorsed a mix of Democrats and Republicans. And if they petition to establish an independent ballot line, that would mean like when you're going down the ballot to vote, it's like Democrats, Republican, Conservative, Working Families Party. And then there would be a line that said One Saratoga, and you could vote for candidates on there. If that's a line that is established successfully and has a group of hybrid candidates, I think that would really make the difference between who's going to win on the Democratic line and who's going to win on the Republican line. And the candidates that I'm really honed in on are Tim Cole for public safety, because we really do have a lot of unhappy people with our current public safety commissioner, Jim Montanino. And then I'm also looking at the mayor's race, Chris Mattison versus Ron Kim in a primary. I think is going to be a really tight primary. And I think Ron Kim could seriously stand a chance of getting ousted in this Democratic primary if Chris Mattison succeeds in getting enough signatures to truly challenge him in this primary season. So the primaries used to be in September. That changed back in 2019. The primaries are now in June. So it does make the campaign season start earlier, and it does really compress that primary timeline. Just for clarity, I am helping on Chris Mattison's campaign. If I'm hired to work on that campaign, I will let this audience know. But as we've always said with this podcast, this is a mix of information that we're bringing you all, but we're also obviously giving our opinions as well. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that, though, with everybody who's listening.
Yeah,
So,
the first interesting thing I see there is the Democratic primary. I think the last election showed us that it's very, very difficult, and it will be with the changing demographics and numbers in the city, for somebody to win on the Republican line. So you have Chris Mattison, who was a Democrat, is a Democrat, was a commissioner of public safety, challenging Ron Kim in a primary. And I think that's going to go a long way in establishing who our next mayor is, because like I said, the majority of voters in the city now are Democrats. So do we think Chris Mattison can get has a chance, what is his shot? What's his path to win the Democratic primary? First getting the signatures, but then he's got to beat the established incumbent.
well,
His campaign has to be more than just, I'm not Ron Kim. I hope he knows that. He needs a vision. He needs a positive reason for the Democratic primary voters, which is a small group, to vote for him. He can't just be, I'm not Ron Kim.
Absolutely. Although I think there's actually a lot to be said at this point about not being Ron Kim and being just a straight up better choice. And I think what we've seen on the Democratic committee actually really speaks volumes about whether or not he has a chance of succeeding here. We know Ron Kim refused to be on the same petition sheet as the other Democratic candidates, specifically Dylan Moran. We know that there's a huge schism in the Democratic Party here right now, and on the current city council, all 5 of who are Democrats. And so we know there's a lot of problems with that party in Saratoga Springs. And I think this is the opportune moment to find out how deep that schism is through a primary campaign. We also know that Chris Mattison, he was a 3-time public safety commissioner. He's been very vocal at the city council meetings over the last year or 2. He's been very vocal on the political blogs here. And we know he hasn't really taken his eye off of city politics ever since he left office. And so he certainly has vision for what he would like to see happen at City Hall to clear up some of this dysfunction, to get rid of some of the animosity that's come up with the community, and to move issues forward so he can get things done in City Hall in a civil manner and kind of restore some of what's been lost over the last year and a half with Ron Kim and his city council.
This is what I find interesting about this primary, and wondering what you guys. So I was frustrated because I during my campaign election, I just felt voters weren't informed. They kind of voted party lines. They would vote a headline as opposed to getting to know the candidate. And there was about 6,000 people who voted in the last city council election. The last real Democratic primary like this was more?
Yeah, it was about 8,000. 8,000,
pardon me.
Okay.
The last Democratic primary that the city held was between Michelle Madigan and Patty Morrison, where there was like 1,400 voters. Primaries city council elections really don't turn out a huge portion of the population. Primaries are even, a smaller group of the population.
Yeah, I'm expecting.
Does that mean you have more, kind of zealots who vote party line, or does that mean you have more people who are passionate about politics and do their research and know the candidates?
That's
what I think is going to come down to if Chris Mattison can win this or not. Is that if that population who are voting for the established Democrat, if they show up, he doesn't have a chance. But if it's the informed voters who are looking for choices and potentially looking for change, then I think he can win. And I don't know. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on who shows up for a primary election.
It's a lot of within the Democratic Party. Well, both parties, the two extremes are the ones that show up, right? The conservative, the hard conservatives,
I'm not sure that we know that.
The left leaning and the Dems. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure that there's any conclusive way to say that. I mean, I think it's certainly people who are more involved in the politics of their party, but I'm not sure that we can say necessarily that it's the more progressive leaning Democrats or more conservative leaning Republicans. Do you know what I mean?
That's the traditional view, though. That's been the traditional view that at least nationally, locally, it could be party insiders.
I guess that's the problem, is that I always feel like Saratoga Springs bucks the national trend because we're so freaking weird here when it comes to politics. What I do know is that I expect turnout to be around 2,000 people for this Democratic primary. That's what I would anticipate. And I also think that with Chris Matthiessen and Michelle Madigan, you're talking about two Democrats who left office after serving multiple successful terms. So we're not talking about two candidates who have ever been defeated as Democrats, which I think speaks very highly of them, versus a guy, Ron Kim, who had 5 unsuccessful campaigns as a Democrat and then squeaked out 1 victory, thanks in part largely to someone on this podcast, me. Right, Adam? Remember that?
I want to take a slight turn here. I want to ask you 2 questions, the two of you, 2 questions cold here. I didn't plan it this way, but it just sort of came up to me at the beginning here. Well, I'll start with Adam. You maybe considered running again. You were a candidate last time. Would you care to share your thoughts on, you're obviously not running, how you came, did you give it any consideration, or did you know November of 2021, I'm not running in 2 years?
Well, Phil, thanks for asking, Dan. I think after the last election, I really look forward to being somebody who could speak freely about my thoughts about the future of the city and the candidates. And as a candidate, you're really kind of confined to your messaging and to being politically correct and knowing anything you say, can and will be used against you. And that's a grind. That's a toll. I was really looking forward to now being able to speak freely about the election, not worrying about somebody screenshotting something and, at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday, having a post I did 2 years ago brought up and oh, look at Adam, he did this or said this. I'm really looking forward to being able to use whatever voice I have to support the causes and the candidates that I think will do the best job for the city. Honestly, I'm going into this with an open mind. I'm not supporting anybody or endorsing anybody, but I'll see how they run their campaigns and what messaging they're getting across. And again, it was just a kind of I always called it a legacy resume builder, was to be a commissioner in this fine city. So never ruling it out in the future. But for this campaign, I'm really looking forward to sitting here with you guys every week and being able to, the talking heads who get to pick apart things that everybody else does. Robin, how about you?
Adam, you were making me laugh because I was like, yes, Adam, we have the right to remain silent. Anything we say or do can be used against us in a court of law. I was laughing. No, I feel similarly to Adam in that actually when we started this podcast, that was when I realized how much on the council table, especially also when running for election, I had to mind my P's and Q's, and how satisfying it was to just really speak my mind, probably too much so, just speak my mind. But also I would love to run for public office again at some point, whether that's here or elsewhere. But I take a look around and I'm not so blinded by ego that I'm just going to run for the sake of fulfilling my own ego. I look around at a community and think is this going to be helpful? Can I be productive? Can I do something that's going to be positive here? And in this moment in time, I don't think I'm that person at all, but I do think I can be helpful behind the scenes, supporting the right candidates. I know I can be helpful in that role. So for me, this election cycle, it was like a no-brainer. Plus, it is pretty much the shittiest thing you can do to your family, bar none. Yes. In terms of a career choice, the shittiest. And there's just no way I would put my family through that again right now.
I know Kasha and probably Matt. I mean, when Robin and I were running, it was, an hour every night at least, just in a room with a closed door, talking about you get overwhelmed is not the right word, but consumed with just the minutia of every little thing people say and do, and it's all consuming, and it does detract from what your responsibilities are as a spouse and a parent as well. So with that being said, this is why we have a lot of respect for anybody who decides to run for public office, because it's a commitment with not with a $14,000 a year payment at the end if you win. So
Adam and I basically had like a 9-month non-sexual affair.
I'm wondering, I don't know if I can talk about this or not, but I know you were subpoenaed by the state of New York, and all your our text message threads were. Well, I don't know what Loretta James thinks about
Letitia.
Letitia, pardon me, Miss James. How about that? But there was a lot of conversations. But back to the election. So we'll start at mayor. If Chris Matthiessen wins that Democratic primary, I think he has a very good shot at becoming mayor.
If he wins the Democratic primary, he'll win.
Yeah. If Mayor Kim wins it, it's going to be tough to beat him. My understanding is even if Mr. Matthiessen does not win the Democratic primary, he'll still be on a one Saratoga line if that's formed, and he'll still run a campaign, which can open the door for the Republicans and John Stafford with theoretically Democrats splitting votes.
So I just want to clarify really quick. One Saratoga hasn't done any endorsements or made any announcements. So if he goes for an endorsement with one Saratoga and they give him an endorsement with one Saratoga, and they get a line, there's a lot of ifs in there.
Yeah, they don't have to. They don't. Unlike the Republicans, Democrats, the independent lines like one Saratoga, they don't start petitioning till after the major parties petition.
So independent lines, you can start petitioning, I believe, April 15th, and the petitions are due at the end of May. And so you would accept if there was an independent line that was petitioning for you as a candidate, Adam Israel, for example. You would get a letter saying your name was petitioned for this independent line, and you could accept that nomination. Probably would be the first week in June. You would get that notice. So say you said yes to that. So then you'd be on the Adam Israel Rocks line, and you would accept that nomination. You'd be on that line. The primary is June 28th. I want to say off the top of my head. So say the primary comes and goes. Say you lose the primary. Well, you're still on the Adam Israel Rocks line. And there's nothing you can do about that unless you commit a felony, you die, or you move out of the county.
Or become a judge.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's.
You have to become a lawyer first, so I think that's kind of a compact timeline.
Hey, can we talk about John Stafford? He is a solid guy. He's from Buffalo, near and dear to my heart. Yeah. And he wasn't the biggest vote getter. He ran when you guys ran. He ran for county supervisor. He was a distant fourth. So in a perfect storm, he's got with Matthiessen and Kim dividing up the vote, as Adam said, but he's got to up his game to have a significant impact on this election, and things have to fall just right for him. But he is a rock solid guy, Vietnam War veteran, as is Tim Cole, who's running for Commissioner of Public Safety. I think all three of us know him now. We disclosure here. I really like the guy. I'm gonna be voting for him. I think he's a great candidate, former FBI.
Dan's already endorsed him.
Just his resume. I've gotten to know him. So
in
Matt Beach, I am a fan of Matt Beach as well. He's an incumbent. So I'm just going to, sorry, keep going.
Wait, I just am laughing because Dan, you literally just said, I have to disclose that I think he's a really nice guy. Is that a disclosure we have to make now?
No, meaning I ended my sentence halfway. I just want to disclose I'm giving my opinion here. Dan Federicis likes Tim Cole as a candidate. I just want to disclose that. I don't want to hide it.
And Tim Cole, I don't believe
we have opinions.
He's not a Vietnam vet. I don't believe.
John Stafford is at least a Vietnam era vet.
Yeah, but right. But I thought you said Tim Cole is one too.
No, he's a retired FBI agent.
He's a retired FBI agent.
He's not old enough to be a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, I have no problem saying that. I'm voting for Tim Cole too. I mean, I don't think anyone who's a viewer here is going to be shocked to hear that I'm also voting for Tim. I think he's a great guy, and I think he would be a great choice to run the public safety department.
And let me put in a little plug for Commissioner Montanino here.
All right, Adam, do it.
Wow, just on that alone,
I'm not. You know, just to.
So we need it. We need it.
I think Commissioner Montanino has made some bad.
What? I did not do this.
Tim Cole is at his computer.
Wait, I didn't do that. Just FYI.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I
All
have my phone on Do Not Disturb. But Commissioner Montanino has made, I think, the wrong choices, maybe for the right reasons. So it's and he's getting beat up right now. He didn't do what was easiest. I think he did what was best. So it's. I don't think he's as a bad of a candidate as sometimes we make him out to be. I think he can do good, but we'll see. And certainly, I have a lot of good things to say about Mr. Cole. His record, his ability to do the job. I think he'd be a great commissioner of public safety for the city and do a great job kind of unifying the city. So I do want to say that about Mr. Cole. But we got to share all viewpoints on this podcast.
Right. Yes.
We got to find somebody to come on and advocate for Jim. We have to truly, if you're out there, Saratoga Springs, and you're a Jim Montanino fan, please come on. And I've asked him to come on the podcast. He hasn't returned one of my text messages in a long time. Shocker. But I'll ask him again to come on the podcast. But if someone out there is a Jim Montanino advocate, we would love to talk to you because we are a touch biased in our feelings for him. Well, not so much biased in our feelings for him. I just think we would like to present a more balanced view to our viewers, and we're not really super capable of doing that at this moment.
We do have a lot of people watching live. If you want to comment, folks, we do our best to respond to the comments as they come in.
We do respond to the comments, and if you're Dan, we'll read your comments.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dan, another thing about John Stafford too is his I don't know, philanthropic record, but he is a volunteer for many. Yeah. He's very involved with the Elks. He does a lot of things for the betterment of the society in our city without looking for repayment. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, but anyway, that's go ahead, Ram.
I actually just was going to say that I thought he ran a great campaign for supervisor. I really did. And he did things that were so far outside of his comfort zone. I was super impressed. And I thought he did really well. When I saw him show up, I was at Saratoga Black Lives Matter, had a Get Out the Vote rally. And they asked all the candidates who were running for any office to come. And I went down and he was there, and it really, to me, spoke volumes that he was there. He was engaged, and none of the other Republican candidates showed up, and there he was. And I know that might seem like superficial or like just a minor thing, but to me, it really spoke volumes. And he had a ton of endorsements from all people on all sides of the political spectrum last time around. And I thought that was a great thing. Now, that being said, I want Chris Mathieson to be our mayor. So in a perfect world, I would love to see John Stafford running for a different position because I think there's other spots that he could be really effective. And I would like to see him used that way if he was interested versus running in a position that I think is going to end in not in victory. I don't see any path to victory for him on the mayoral line.
I do in the most perfect narrow storms. If Mathieson and Kim are both still on the ballot and both battling out splitting the Democratic vote, but that's more in theory than likelihood.
But Dan, it's funny you brought that up because an example comes to mind in my head of what you're talking about. Dylan Moran versus, oh my God, I'm going to space on her name.
Samantha Guerra.
Thank you. Dylan Moran versus Samantha Guerra when we had another great Democrat on an independent line. Adam, help me out again. She's currently Angela Rella. So we had Dylan Moran, Democrat, Angela Rella on an independent line. And then we had Samantha Guerra, Democrat, Republican, Democrat on an indie line. The Democrats did not split the vote and have the Republican win. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, Samantha didn't win.
Samantha didn't win. And it's exactly the same setup that you're talking about.
Not exactly, because John Stafford is, let's face it, he's a better candidate. Samantha was not the strongest candidate for that position. You think that
John Stafford, having lost a supervisor race here and lost him as a mayoral candidate here, is a better candidate than Samantha Guerra was?
John Stafford
on paper, yes.
Candidate. She's a good person. She was not a strong candidate for that position.
I don't think she's a strong political candidate, but she was a new candidate versus a 2-time defeated candidate.
Okay, but I'm basing on, I guess, on resume,
on resume,
and abilities and so forth.
1,000% agree.
Yeah.
1,000%
Right, well,
agree.
let's
Samantha had no business being in politics. I agree with you on that.
let's go down the line here. So we have accounts that right now it just seems Commissioner
It's
Moran
just
is being. Yep, who knows? There's always could be a dark horse that comes out somewhere.
True.
But I think I like Commissioner Moran. I think he does a great job for the city. I really like how he's very pro small business. He's really kind of progressive on his ideas of what the downtown and the restaurants should be doing and can be doing with outdoor dining. He's passionate about the city. It's easy to talk. I'm glad nobody's running against him, because then we'd have to be kind of unbiased. But I'm happy to see Commissioner Moran be our accounts commissioner again, because I think he does do a good job for the city.
Yeah, I completely agree. I vote Moran.
I agree, and to expand on your point, there's been so much negative in politics in this town lately that there's been little room for visions. And at least Dylan has shown a vision with what you talked about, with the expanded outdoor dining and something. I want to see in this election, with all candidates, more visions, as opposed to you did this, you did that, and all these other outside. I mean, the homeless are a real issue, right? But it can't be 100% of the issue. The Black Lives Matter is a real issue. It can't be 100%. Can I hear some positive visions during these campaigns? And I'm really going to be looking for that, because in many cases, I still don't know who I'm voting for.
Dan, you know what you're not going to like about Ron Kim's campaign? He's already come out attacking Chris Mattison, and all he's doing is going through Chris Mattison's record of the past. It's the past. All he wants to argue is the past. And all I kept thinking about is the past is in the past. We can't change anything that's happened. What we can do is talk about the future. I want to talk about what we can do moving forward. So I completely agree.
Let's face it, that it is going to be one ugly primary, right? Can we agree on that?
Well,
no matter who does what, that will be one ugly primary.
Maybe not, because I don't know if
this isn't going to be.
I don't know if Chris is going to go there.
He won't.
He'll have to. I predict he will.
Guys, I'm going to read. Gail LaSalle just weighed in with a comment, which I'm going to read quickly. She said, "I like John Safford and know he is a man of great integrity. My fear, depending on the rest of the council, he will get eaten alive by the huge egos of the others. And of course, I'm in the Mattison camp." Valuable comment. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail. Yeah.
Adam, who's up next?
All right. So down the line, we have Commissioner Shangvi and Commissioner of Finance, who defeated me that last election. But again, I think she's done a lot of good. I like that participating budgeting she did. Dan, I know you like it because you got to get your curling in. I think she's done some things. She's gone against some campaign promises. She did raise taxes. She redid her office. She hired an assistant, all while raising taxes. These things it was just frustrating, because I felt that if these were points she made during the campaign, she may or may not have won the election. And I don't know, I think maybe raising taxes, and very slightly, but raising taxes was something maybe that was needed. Redoing the office, I thought was a little over the top. Hiring an assistant, your first year into the job, I thought was a little over the top. But all in all, I like her. I think she does a good job for the city. And I'm impressed. I made a prediction, and I was wrong, that she was doing this. Like I always said, it would be a legacy resume builder for me. I thought it was a actual resume builder for her, but she's staying on. She's doing more than one term, meaning that she's in this more than just to check that box. She's in this for the right reasons. So I'd like to see her challenge, but I'm not unhappy that she's going to be your next Commissioner of Finance. I am an unabashed Manita Sangvi fan. So I come from large.
I didn't mind the raising the taxes because I thought it was such a minute amount. I thought the redoing of her office was a stupid idea just because the optics of it were just going to be stupid. And my personal feeling when we were moving back in City Hall, because it was such a nightmare moving back in City Hall, was that I was like, just give me someplace where I can set up a freaking computer. Preferably I'll have a seat too, but I don't give a shit. But also with the hiring of the assistant, I don't know if it was particularly needed, but all I can say is that you don't really know what you're going to need until you start doing the job. And if that was needed, I tried not to ever dip into someone else's department to figure out like what the need was, you know, and you kind of like come to a point where you just have to trust what your other council people are telling you in terms of what their needs are to make their department run the way they want it to run. But I can see what you're saying, Adam. Like it's counterintuitive when you like look at a tax raise and then you try to look at the, you know, commissioner of finance is like spending in their own department. I can see how that's like, you know, a little cognitive dissonance there. But that being said, I think she's been approachable. She's always kept a communication going with me, which I've really appreciated because some of the other council members have not. I love the participatory budgeting, and also participatory budgeting round 2 just opened up. So If anyone has an idea that they want funded, contact City Hall, an email went out. If there's something you want funded, it's a really awesome opportunity for that to happen with the second round.
Money for podcasts.
Oh, suddenly we have a conflict of interest. She doesn't have anyone running against her at this point, so I'm voting Manita.
Yeah. Great. All right. And so next up, we have Commissioner Golub and Commissioner of Public Works, again, running uncontested. I think we're all going to agree that Commissioner Golub is doing a great job for the city, deserves the position. We're happy to see him run again.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, I'm a fan of him as well, and he's been the voice of reason at times on the city council meetings when things get heated. Everything he says is just is level-headed.
Proudly worked on his campaign. Love him. He's been awesome.
Yeah, he's very city first and not partisan politics first. All right, and so that brings up, we already talked about this a little bit, but public safety with Tim Cole, like Dan said, retired FBI agent, impressive resume. And Jim Montanino. It's going to be so Tim Cole is running on the Republican line.
Yes, this is kind of a weird thing, though. Yeah.
Go ahead, Robin.
So it's weird because he registered so Tim Cole had been an independent voter, meaning he wasn't registered with either major party for years and years. He then registered as a Democrat, but the Democratic committee wouldn't allow him the opportunity to speak to the whole committee or even present to them. So he then ended up speaking to the Republican committee because they allowed him to speak to the full committee. And they gave him something called a Wilson Pakula, which is, now we're getting into the weird nitty gritty of politics, but essentially it allows a Democrat to run on a Republican ticket. And the way he spoke about it, I thought was really just kind of compelling. He was like, you know what? Who cares about labels? Like, this isn't the moment to think about political labels. I'm here because I need an opportunity to get on the ballot and run for this office that I know I'd be great at, because there's a lot of things that I need to restore in this department. And so this is the avenue that was available to me. And this is the avenue I'm going to take. And I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. What I care about is city over party and restoring public safety. And I thought that was a very refreshing take and something that I could certainly support.
Yeah, I hope if I could jump in here, let's face it, Jim Montanino is still the Democratic endorsed candidate who presumably has full support of the committee and so forth. Tim Cole's a newcomer to politics. He doesn't know as many people here. He's got an uphill battle, and he's a great candidate. But that only gets you so far, right? He's going to have to work like crazy to overcome the advantage. As many missteps as we think Jim Montanino made, he's still the Democratic endorsed candidate that has all that support. And the Republicans did not come strong out of the gate, right? Out of 7 potential candidates, they've got 3 so far. So they've got their work cut out for them if they're to keep any seats beyond Matt Beach, presumably retaining his county supervisor seat.
You guys, can I just ask both of you a question? I had advised Tim Cole strongly to run as a Democrat and challenge Montanino in a Democratic primary. Do you think it was a mistake for him not to do that?
It would have been tricky, right? It would have been hard.
Well, he could have had the Republican line right now and also be petitioning to challenge Montanino in a primary.
That would have been the tricky part. With Dems in a primary, again, a skewed group, would they vote for somebody that had Republican support already? I don't know. And if I'm Montanino, I hammer him with that all day long. So,
but see, worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario, you pick up some Democratic support and you lose the primary. You still got the Republican line and some Democratic support.
I see your point. I actually wish he did do that, but it was still tricky. I wished he did do that, but I understand that it was not an easy decision. It would have been very delicate, very awkward, perhaps at times.
But so that's a yes for Dan.
I'm all over the board here.
Yeah. My concern again would be with Dan with once he has that Republican support, I think it would be an incredibly hard uphill battle to try to win that. And what you risk is turning off some Republican voters, really, in the fact that you saw the Democratic line, so you might lose some voters there. I understand your thought, Robin. I think it would be it'd be kind of swinging for the fences.
Right.
And I like the idea of, all right, let's we have a long time before November. Is October, November, right? Yeah, we have a long time before November. Let's focus on the general election, and not dilute the pool with this second election, or this first of two elections before the general election. So I understand the theory of it. I just think it would be too high of a hill to climb, and it's better just to focus on. All right, this is the end game here. Jim's support, as we see, the city council is eroding with the city council and with some Democrats. So and very kind of public, big displays. So that message might get out there to Democratic voters, and he might be able to steal some and win that race.
So in the same way, you wouldn't have advised like Chris Mattison to run on the Republican line if you didn't think he could win his primary?
Would I would advise him to run on the Republican line if that's a great question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I guess the difference is Mattison has a better shot of winning the Democratic primary. He's a Democrat. He's won as a Democrat. He's a known Democrat, and he's not associated with Republicans. So that's an easier path for him trying to primary Mayor Kim as opposed to somebody like Tim Cole, who's just doesn't have the name recognition or the support of Democrats that Mr. Mattison has had in the past.
But it certainly would hurt him in a Democratic primary to be on a Republican line at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Real quick, a quick aside. We should have Tara Gaston on. She's not running again. I'd like to hear her talk to us. I'd like to have her on at some point.
I'll definitely ask her. Really, really quick, you guys. Do you think Gordon Boyd can win as supervisor against a Michelle Madigan and Matt Veach? They're
all well established, right? All three of them, right? That could be a dogfight because there's only two slots. I'm sorry?
Do you think Gordon Boyd is well established in politics?
Well, he's well known, right? He's been in the city for a long time. He knows a lot of people. For better or for worse? I'm sorry?
For better or for worse, is he well known?
I'll just give you my personal opinion. I haven't been here that long. I do like him. I like Michelle, and I really like Matt Veach. So the second choice there will be tough for me. But personally, I'm going to punt a little bit on your question.
I can see that. Adam?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this. So the way the supervisor role works is there's two supervisors, so everybody gets 2 votes. We have 3 candidates, and the top 2 vote getters get the position. So you have Michelle Madigan, Gordon Boyd, and Mr. Veach. Mr. Veach is the only Republican on there, so theoretically he's going to get the Republican lines, the Republican votes, which in a 3-way race, now you don't need it more than half, you need more than a third of the votes. I think he has a path to winning. So now you have Michelle Madigan, and she won 10 elections, 5 in a row, and you have Gordon Boyd. I think Michelle Madigan has successful. What's that? 0. Yeah.
0.
I think Michelle Madigan did something pretty incredible when she was primaried by Patty Morrison, lost the primary, but then came back and won the general election. So I think that goes to show that Michelle has Democrat and Republican support. Mm-hmm. So she'll get some, I think, she'll get a lot of those second Republican votes, and she'll get enough Democrat votes to win, because she doesn't have to worry about a primary. She gets the signatures. Because there's 2 spots on that line, there will be no primary. So she'll be on the Democratic line, which is which in Saratoga elections is it's a big boost to your chances just out of the gate if you're on that line. So I think she'll do enough to. So
is a loser.
Yeah. I think I just. Yeah. Gordon has his core. I mean, he's kind of known as an activist, a progressive activist in the community, and he will get those votes. But he won't. But the rest of the Democratic votes will go to Michelle, and she'll pick up some Republicans and enough to where she's won every election she's been in. Yeah. So it's hard to see her getting unseated now.
Yeah. And my perception of Gordon Boyd, and my experience with Gordon Boyd, is that he's actually quite polarizing within the Democratic Party. And sometime in some ways, Michelle Madigan is as well. Although I think Gordon Boyd more so. I also think Gordon Boyd was a Republican for some time. Was he not?
I don't know that, but in all fairness, Robin, you're very pro Michelle, right? You're going to be supporting her in this election and so forth.
Yeah, I'm pro Michelle, but I'm not sure that bleeds into my opinion of Gordon Boyd necessarily. I've had the same opinion of Gordon Boyd for a long time.
And you love him, right? Kidding.
Oh, I love him. I love him as much as I love Jim Montagnino. They're my two favorite men in Saratoga, brothers from another mother.
Yeah. There you go. So
well, we're at 55 minutes.
I know.
Just
so you guys really quickly, I just want to finish with this, if that's okay. And we can maybe talk about this next time too. But speaking of Gordon Boyd, Michael Phillips has been. It's come out that Michael Phillips is going to be appointed our next city attorney by Mayor Ron Kim. He just ran a failed race for district attorney. My experience with him is that he's easily persuaded and pushed around by politics, by Democratic politics, as evidenced by how much sway Gordon Boyd had over him in the last election. I think it's a really interesting choice for city attorney. I think, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts, but I just wanted to get your guys' opinion before we logged off.
John Coffin's blog has a piece on this just up today, I believe, right? Okay. And and I love John, but he's got a strong bias, and whatever he's writing, he's either pro or anti, and he's certainly anti all this. So I need to disclose that. Nonetheless, I love John Coffin's blog because it does show things that you might not find in the traditional media. So I recommend that everyone read Saratoga Springs Politics and take a look at what he has to say about that, pointing out that Mr. Phillips does not have relevant experience. Mr. Phillips will probably, counter that, but Coffin's blog lays it out that he doesn't have municipal experience and so forth. So it's an interesting piece.
Yeah, I don't know much about him except we went to his debate and when he was running for the county DA, the county DA's office. He kind of used some aggressive campaign tactics, like they found some documents and trying to pin it on. It kind of had tried to pin it on the current DA in her election, Karen Hagan, and it kind of reeked of like Hunter's laptop. It just was. Come on now,
it was down and dirty.
Yeah, but I the two things I find interesting are, one, I don't like cronyism, and I think this kind of reeks of cronyism. I think it's that you have a party member here getting a job on the taxpayer dollar. Was he most qualified, or was it his work for the party and the Democrats that got him this position, and so that's what I don't like. The other thing is that this is one of multiple kind of pullbacks from Mayor Kim. This was a big thing early on in his administration. We don't need we're all lawyers. We don't need any city lawyers. And now we're walking that back. And again, it was I think a political mistake, and we talked about in this podcast to get rid of that position in the beginning. So it's kind of interesting now that we're walking that back and admitting that was a mistake. But
I believe he's raised the salary too, Adam. I think he raised the compensation too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that would have to be a council vote, right?
Yeah, no, I think they approved it a while ago because he's been trying to hire the city attorney for several months because, as people may not know this, but the city attorney reports to the mayor's office. So you're working under the mayor, at the pleasure of the mayor. But what that means is that your term is only as long as that mayor's term is, because you're an appointment of the mayor. So Michael Phillips is only going to be in this position from April through the end of December. If Ron Kim wins again and reappoints him, that reappointment would happen in January. If Ron Kim loses and there's another mayor, say Chris Matisse in there, it's up to that new mayor as whether
or John Stafford.
Or John Stafford. It's up to John or Chris as to whether or not Michael Phillips would stay on as a city attorney or not. So I don't know how.
Izo's staying. Let me clarify. Izo is staying in his current role of a part-time city attorney.
I believe this would be the second city attorney. Yes. So he would have two city attorneys, Tony Izo and Michael Phillips. But Michael Phillips.
The other issue that comes up here, and this isn't specific to this circumstance, but it's the city attorney is there to represent the city and all council members, and we've seen kind of that unbiased advice be greatly shaded. So is his ability and again, this is the setup of our commission form of government and the roles and the rights of the mayor to appoint this position. But is he going to work for the whole city and the whole city council, or is he going to be working just for the mayor and the mayor's office? I guess remains to be seen.
Wait, also, you guys, what's really disastrous about this appointment is that he's also tasking this city attorney position as taking over all the job responsibilities of Marilyn Rivers, who was the director of risk and safety, which to me is crazy because Marilyn Rivers had a more than full-time job managing the city's insurance, just that alone. And her job encompasses more than that, but just dealing with all the city insurance issues is a more than full-time job that should not be given to a political appointee. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, absolutely batshit crazy. Like, the person who manages that should be someone who's talented, qualified, goes through the civil service system, and isn't at the whimsy of politics, and shouldn't be someone who, by the way, Michael Phillips just accepted a job that's only guaranteed from March through the end of December. We don't want the person who's tasked with managing all of the city insurance issues to be leaving in December and then be someone new in January and then potentially be someone new 2 years later and so on and so forth. It shouldn't be politically driven. It should be someone who is qualified and goes through civil service, etc. I mean, it's just freaking crazy to me.
The quickest aside that John Kaufman noted in his blog was, he ran against Karen Hagan. You got Mayor Kim with this dispute with the press conference with Karen Hagan. Is this a shot at the county district attorney?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a dynamic there that is bothersome, right?
Hugely bothersome.
Yeah. I don't know that Michael Phillips is a city resident. Not that that's an absolute, but are you telling me there weren't? And I'm not against Michael Phillips. I know him a little bit from the campaign. He's the first time a Democrat has ran hard in a DA's race in a long time. I give him credit for that. But are you saying there were no qualified attorneys that were city residents? Which
probably actually
go there first. Yeah.
Well, there probably were qualified attorneys, but why would a qualified attorney want to disrupt their career to take what amounts to a 10-month appointment and go work for the biggest assholes in city government who themselves are attorneys and are going to freaking argue with you all day long and have no ability to act with decorum or professionalism? I mean, is that really the most appealing job you've ever seen?
I'm sorry, that was so unfiltered. God bless you, Robin.
No, I'm pretty sure that was the job description verbatim. I'm kidding. Maybe, you know what? Can I just rephrase that as my jeer for the week, Dan?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
You want to start there? We're at an hour.
We're over an hour. Okay, so I just did my jeer for the week. My cheer for the week is going to be Dan Federicis for putting up with all my jeering. Moving on. Adam, do you have any cheers and jeers for the week?
Yeah, well, I just have one small jeer. Dan and I were at the last city council meeting. There was a young man there, Benjamin Butler Glover, is a high school student. He's one of Jim's interns. Here we got to go the cheers. He just was. To see participation at that young of an age. I think he's a sophomore or junior in high school, but he was out late on a Tuesday night, dressed appropriately for a city council meeting. I thought he was a very impressive young man, and I just want to encourage more people take place in our great democracy, the better it works. So again, a little shout out to what's that?
Shout out Benjamin.
Yeah, and I know he watches the show too. So thanks for watching.
Yes, he does. He's on it. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, I concur with Benjamin. I got with yesterday's storm. Cheers to our DPW, state DOT, the county, all municipalities with the plow drivers and other public workers, National Grid workers out there, and other utilities. Even the cable company. People were complaining on what's going on in Saratoga about their cable being out. And they didn't complain about it, but they said our cables, they just noted that. So all those workers that made life a little easier for people during the storm, doing their job, but that is tough work during those storms. Being outside, climbing poles, things like that, and dangerous work, by the way. So cheer to them. Another quick cheer to the whole horse racing industry. They had a rally down in Albany on Monday to support horse racing because there are forces within state government that are vehemently against horse racing. They would like to see it outlawed. They would like to take the money away. And the horse racing stakeholders went down there, and including New York Thoroughbred Breeders and the other horse owners associations and so forth. Good for them. 2 cheers, no jeers. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Another great podcast. We will see you next Wednesday. For those listening, watching, or for those listening and watching later, you can find us wherever you watch podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Anchor. I could keep going and going. There's a million different platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you watch podcasts. Look for the Saratoga Podcast. Subscribe, like, listen, share. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. Stay charming, Saratoga.
Thanks for watching.